Amanda hydrated?
I'm hydrate. All right, let's do this. Hello, friends and fiends. Welcome to Bugs Need Heroes, a podcast illustrating the inspiring ability of insects. I'm Amanda.
And I'm Kelly.
Before we get started creating a bug-themed character, what's bugging you, Kelly?
I think just the heat, like last week. I'm just hot. I'm hot all the time.
It's a literal killer out there. It is hot.
I heard that what might be bugging you has to do with today's podcast theme.
Oh, yes, that is correct. It is mosquito haven out here in Portland this year. It's like record numbers of mosquitoes sucking all our blood, taking away our what is it, IPA blood. It's just taking it away.
Yeah, you guys have a big mosquito bloom going on out there.
Big boom. Yeah, I've got several bites on my ankles. That's where they like it, is the ankles for me. And I haven't even really been outside that much. I mean, I guess I go to the park most days, and that must be where they're getting me. But that's the middle of the day. So if they're out in the middle of the day, there's got to be a lot of them because they're really competitive for that delicious blood.
They're hungry. There's depending on the species, they'll be out different times, so you'll get some overlap, a little bit of a changing of the mosquito guard, if you will.
You know it's a bad mosquito year when you're laying in bed and it's dark in the room except for your cell phone because you're cruising some midnight, shopping, whatever it is.
I've been there.
Yeah. Been there. You're cruising the internet in the middle of the night. Your screen's the only thing that's bright in the room, and then a mosquito is just like trying to press that purchase button for you, just whacking itself against the screen because it's the only light in the room, and you're like, okay, I guess I gotta squish this bug against my phone now.
Oh, I don't really get them in my apartment, but we're pretty high up. We're like 30. I'm not gonna say how many floors, but we're 30 plus floors up into the sky, and we get bugs up here, but not a ton. We get flies that come in from the balcony, and occasionally a couple mosquitoes, but not.
They gotta really want it to get that high up.
Yeah. You get shoved up by a nice air current, and then there's
I guess I never really thought about like the upward limit of a flying bug's like willingness to fly. Yeah, probably pretty high.
Confusing. I'm sure it's very confusing. All of a sudden, you're up here. And
what's going on? Like those terns that like never land. They spend like 360 days of the year in the air. So you must be in mosquito lover heaven then, because you both love, and I don't want to say you have a love-hate relationship with mosquitoes, but we have foreshadowed several times that you are a mosquito. You have a complicated relationship. If you and mosquitoes were on Facebook together, you would have put "it's complicated" in your relationship status.
I always feel really weird calling myself an expert in anything because I don't feel like an expert in anything, but I guess you would say
don't let the imposter syndrome get you down. Don't let the imposter syndrome get you.
It's hard, man. It's hard. I guess you would say I'm a mosquito expert. My dissertation research for my PhD is all mosquitoes, so I'm assuming at this point I know more than the average folk about a mosquito.
I would certainly hope so. Especially considering I don't really know that much about them other than let's see what I know. And you can be very impressed by me.
I'm excited
with my mosquito knowledge. I know that only the females bite you because they're the ones who want that delicious blood for egg making purposes, I believe.
Right.
I know that. That's it. That's all I know. I know they're called mosquitoes. I know that they start in water. I know that their life cycle has water involved. I know that they do a weird little a shrimp-like movement when they're in the water. They're like,
We call those wrigglers.
Oh, there you go. Aptly named.
Yeah.
And I would say that's probably it. That's probably the extent of my mosquito knowledge, other than just slapping those suckers off of me all summer long.
That was pretty good.
Thank you.
So I've had professors ask me who are not entomologists or not even in that world, ask me if males drink blood. So
Hmm.
it's not I don't think it's as common knowledge as we might think it is, that everyone knows it's just females. So that was good, Amanda. That was a good start. I'm proud of you.
Yes, thank you. That was my whole goal, was to learn slightly more about bugs.
We're getting there. Yeah. We're all here to learn all the time. I think if you don't mind, before we get in to the meat of the mosquito discussion, I have a small story to tell.
Oh, lay it on me. Lay it on me.
So I'm on Twitter at Fills Your Niche. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram and Reddit. Uh, and when this was a few years ago, I think it was right before the pandemic, a teacher approached me on Twitter and asked if I would speak to her classroom about mosquitoes on Zoom. And I said, sure, that would be great. These kids were, I think, in middle school. How old are middle school kids? I have no idea.
Ranges from between 12 and 14 about.
12 and 14. Oh,
Your
the best
youngest might be 11.
the best age group to talk to about anything. Tweens.
No, they're terrible. The middle schoolers are the worst. As someone who's taught many a middle schooler, let me tell you, they're the worst of kids and the worst of teenagers. And so they're
Oh,
really getting it.
that
Like a teenager,
explains so much
yeah.
about this encounter that I had.
I mean, a teenager's a young adult, essentially. So if you can keep them engaged, they're fine. And a kid, if you can keep them on task, they're fine. But a middle schooler wants to do neither one of those things. It wants to
Yeah.
be neither engaged nor on task.
I log in on Zoom, and she tells me ahead of time the children should have questions for me about mosquitoes specifically. They have to get up and come close to the camera so I could see them and deliver their question. Well, we get the normal questions. Why do mosquitoes drink blood? Do all mosquitoes drink blood? How many mosquitoes are there? Pretty common questions I would expect from children. And then this boy comes up and he's got this look on his face.
Oh, you just know. You can tell from the very sight of him. This kid's up
The
to no good.
the smugness has already descended before he asks the question.
May we all have the smugness of a 12-year-old boy who's about to ask an inappropriate question.
And he asks me, how many people died from mosquito-borne diseases in 2014?
Oh,
What?
the answer is way more than would be a funny anecdote.
First of all, who asks that? That's a
What
specific
12? Yeah,
question. That
this
is a
kid
very
thought about it.
specific question. That kid didn't think about it. That kid went on Google and he Googled questions about mosquitoes and he
Hmm.
saw that one and was like, I'm just going to ask her this.
Yeah.
Completely, what a lazy dick move.
Lazy Dick explains just pretty much the attitude of any 12-year-old middle school boy.
I didn't have an answer for that. I don't know
A
how
lot.
many people died from mosquito-borne illness in 2014. Why would I know that?
Just a
So
fun little
specific.
anecdote you keep, or a fun little number you keep tucked away in your pocket. You're like, pull it out at parties. By the way, you guys, I see you're enjoying your seltzer. May I say, did you know how many people died of mosquito-borne illnesses in 2014?
Let me tell you, that 12-year-old boy threw me off my game for the rest of the question session because I thought, oh my God, I couldn't answer the question. All the other questions I can answer, but this was a lot. And this has been, it's been a few years now, and I occasionally think about that kid and why. Why did you do this to me? Like, why didn't you have a real question? Because it wasn't a real question. It was
It wasn't.
I
He
don't feel
was
like
just
doing this. Yeah.
trying to be a punk, and he succeeded.
And out
Don't
of
let him.
um out of
Don't let him
spite,
live in your head rent free like that.
out of spite to this day, I don't know how many people, and I refuse to know. I don't want to
Oh,
know.
then I won't ask my follow up question: how many people died
Yeah,
of mosquito-borne
refuse. I
illnesses?
refuse to know how many people.
But it is slightly a bummer. But it is safe to say it's a lot of people.
It's a lot of people. Yeah, it's
Because what are the big
yeah.
ones? I think malaria is the biggest one.
Um, Malaria, maybe dengue fever, depending on
Uh,
what part of the world you're in. There's I was trying to make a list before off the top of my head of how many different mosquito-borne diseases there are, and I think I came up with 14, but there might be more than that, and I don't know.
and that would lean me towards saying right off the bat that they are a villain. But I'm willing to take your opinion under advisement, whether we make this a villain or a hero or like kind of neither. I mean, because my first thought with a mosquito is to make a vampire-esque character because
Hmm.
of the whole blood sucking thing.
I like that. You know what that
So,
reminds me of is, and we'll once we talk about this, like we would have a female vampire, and then the male, because males don't drink blood, kind of
mhm.
reminds me of Guillermo from What We Do in the Shadows,
Guillermo.
like a little Guillermo-esque male following her
I
around.
was watching some behind the scenes clips the other day. That dude can spin a staff. My gosh.
He's great. I
He
love that
really learned how to
actor.
do it. He was like, I could have a stunt double learn how to do this, or I could learn how to do this. And he took it upon himself to be like, no CGI needed for me, please.
Good for
I'm going to learn
him.
how to
Learn
spin
all
this.
the skills. Learn all the skills you can.
If they're going to offer to give you free martial arts training for your job, take it. That's some advice from me to you. If they offer you training at work, take it.
Definitely, especially if it's free. But yeah, if you want to think about our characters going in, I would say vampire-esque female and little Guillermo-like male.
Well, I mean, in vampire, not mosquito culture, but in vampire culture, there's often sort of these slave characters that are the more inept humans who wish they could do what the
Mhm.
vampire does. So,
Yeah,
uh,
there's all
uh,
kind of vampire culture, I guess we could dip into
yeah,
for that.
we're turning the entirety of the male half of mosquitoes into these little simps.
Yeah.
Please, mistress, please bite me. So, where do you start when you're talking about mosquitoes? Where do
Um,
you begin your story of the mosquito?
so I guess we can start with a disclaimer. I am an ecologist. I study mosquito life cycle, ecology, biology, and behavior. I'm not a disease ecologist. I'm not a vector biologist. I don't study the diseases that mosquitoes give people or other animals. That's not my field. So I can't answer a lot of questions about disease transmission. You can ask me those questions, Amanda, and if I'll answer what I can, but there will likely be a big chunk of information about that particular part of their lives that I'm just not qualified to answer.
That's beyond you. That's the next
That's
step for someone else to take on. You're like, "Hey, I got this skeeter.
yeah.
It does these things. Here
Well,
you go."
there are so many wonderful, fantastic scientists studying disease specifically. I didn't want to. I feel like it's been covered. I don't need to
That's
do
fair.
that.
Aren't we all a little diseased out anyway, if I'm honest? If one can be
But if you're
riddled with
really
disease.
if you're really interested in the disease aspect, the US CDC's page has links to what diseases they cause, and there's a great podcast. I guess we can plug their podcast, right? This podcast will kill you.
We're all
They
friends
they've
here.
covered it. Yeah, they've covered a few things as well. But what I was thinking, I can think of maybe 14 diseases specific to humans from mosquitoes. But beyond that, yeah, it's not my field, not my purview, if you will. Now that we've like got the imposter syndrome out of my out of my blood for disease ecology. So I guess we can start with worldwide there are about 3,500 plus species of mosquito.
Oh wow. So there's a lot of different varieties of
Yeah.
mosquito.
Uh, People generally don't. I don't think folks think about that. They think there's maybe 10 mosquitoes, and
Yeah.
they're all bothering us. But there's 175 probably in the United States, different
Oh wow.
species, and then here in New Jersey we have around 63. And I know you guys in Oregon and I think Washington as well. There's around 50 or so different species where you are. So there's a
Oh.
lot. There's a lot
Are
to
they
think about.
filling different spots within the community? What's the word for when it's
Niche.
bugs? The niche. They're filling your niche, Kelly. There you go. They're do they fill different niches? Are there like mosquitoes that predate on like animals, ones that predate on squirrels specifically? Because I know lights can be
Are,
that way.
are squirrels not animals?
Well, specifically a squirrel. A squirrel is what a squirrel does. They are like demons from the underworld, not technically an animal.
Um, yeah, so there are some species are mammalian specific. They prefer to feed on mammals, including humans. Although a little caveat to that is that generally, if there's a human or livestock, they'll go towards the livestock before they'll go towards us.
Oh, a cow
We're
is
not,
tastier than me.
yeah, we're not their. I don't want to use the word favorite. Like my doctoral committee would yell at me for using words like favorite and
Mm.
preference because
Uh,
it's a little too
Anthropomorphizing
anthropomorphic.
those,
Yeah,
yeah.
but essentially that's why.
Yeah. There's something about cow blood that's got more of what they're actually looking for.
Well, it's not the blood. So what attracts a
Mm.
mosquito to its host is a variety of reasons. It's heat, it's CO2 production, it's bacteria on the body. It's an entire makeup of attraction. And there were a couple studies that mentioned blood type too. They might have a preference for O type blood in humans, but that's I don't know. I think those studies were not great.
Yeah, I've heard conflicting stories of like eat bananas and you won't get bit, or don't eat
No.
bananas because if you eat bananas you will get bit. So
The
I
whole
think it's all
the sweet blood thing, the sugar.
yeah.
I don't think that doesn't seem to be too much too relevant. I don't think food is particularly relevant. But but yeah, what attracts them to a host is a whole group of things.
So
Um,
you use DEET to keep them away from you. Is that work for a lot of bugs, or is it specifically mosquitoes?
I think DEET is a pretty overall. I think for you can use for many species. I don't use DEET for my own personal reasons. I don't not for me.
I just usually get eaten too, if I'm honest, just because.
Yeah,
Oh well.
you can use lemongrass oil if you're looking for a natural insect repellent. I don't know how much any of it really works. I think I've heard lavender oil works too. I just don't bother. I don't bother. They're gonna bite me anyway. I don't care. I don't want to be
Right.
covered in goop the whole
I
time.
feel like lavender oil will trade one problem for another, if I'm honest.
Do you like bees?
Do you like bees? We've got
um,
a lavender bush in our neighborhood that we pass by on our walks, and my son calls it the bee bush because it's
Aw,
always just swarming with some big bumble bros just bumbling
I
about in
love a
that lavender
bumblebee.
bush.
They're so cute.
They're very cute. We'll have to do bumblebee at some point because they are so
Oh yeah.
cute.
But after looking at mosquitoes for many years now, I also consider them cute, and I think
Really,
it's just a familiarity thing.
it's
Yeah,
they've wormed their way, for lack of a better word,
my
into your
heart.
heart there, just because you know them. Sometimes the enemy you know becomes your friend.
Yeah. Well, there some species like we have the in our lab we have the Asian tiger mosquito, Aedes albopictus. Most of my the work that I've done is on Aedes specifically, so I'm most familiar with the genus. But they're teeny tiny. They're black and they have white stripes on their legs, a white stripe on their notum, which is their upper part of the thorax. And when they land on you, they kick their back legs up like a little ballerina. They're
La.
they're very dainty. They're the daintiest mosquito I think I've ever seen. They're so cute. But yeah, they want to bite you. So it's not great.
Well, less cute
Working
then.
in a mosquito lab, I am frequently covered in mosquito bites when I leave the lab.
I think we've all seen those viral videos of people like sticking their hands into mosquito boxes. You're not doing that
Oh
kind of stuff, are you?
no. We've so interesting thing about mosquitoes is generally females need blood to make eggs, right? Like you mentioned in the top of the show. Not all of them have to do that. We call them autogenous. So there are certain species, Aedes albopictus is one of them, where if you don't feed them blood, eventually they start producing eggs anyway. They'll drink the
Oh,
sugar water that you give them, and that's enough. And they you can like breed them in a shoebox. They'll just go.
ugh. So that
Yeah.
they prefer the blood. The blood's good for the egg making, but it's not necessary.
Not for that species in
Not for that
particular. There
species.
are a few other species as well that you can force into autogeny. For the mosquitoes in our lab that we do feed blood, my species, which is Aedes triceriatus, they're called the eastern treehole mosquito. They're kind of brown. They're a lot bigger than Aedes albopictus. They're not pretty. I would say they're not pretty. Sorry, guys.
Man, out here telling mosquitoes they're not hot. Ugh.
Sorry,
Do you even like mosquitoes? Come
I'm
on.
negging the mosquitoes right now. No. But for them, I feed them pig's blood.
And that's what they like.
Yeah, I get pig's blood from the Asian food market. It comes in, I think, 10-ounce containers frozen. I warm it up, put them all in ice cube trays so they're easy for me to get out in portions. So I take them out of the ice cube tray, microwave them for 10 seconds, put them in a double boiler so that we can heat the blood up to 37 degrees Celsius, which is human body temperature. And then I put them in a watch glass with a membrane over it, kind of like saran wrap, and then flip it upside down on top of the cage, and the mosquitoes will come to the top, poke their little proboscis through, yeah, through the netting, and then feed from this little blood bag, kind of.
I
It's
will reluctantly admit that that's kind of cute. Sticking their little straw.
right through the holes. The neat thing about the proboscis is it's actually, we think it's one needle, right? It's actually six. It's six little stylets that are
Oh,
all put together.
is that why it hurts so bad? Because I'm actually getting stabbed 6 times.
Anytime you're getting poked with something, it's pretty painful. Although they do
Yeah,
numb
fair
it.
enough.
They do numb it initially. You get that.
Yeah. So, okay, I'm outside.
Mhm.
I'm enjoying my life, mosquito free. The mosquito says that can't stand and comes at me, lands on me, depending on the species, maybe does a little dance about it, a little
Mhm.
kicky kick.
Little kicky kick.
What is that process like from there? So they stab me and they squirt a bunch of don't pay attention to me juice in there?
It's a mix of don't pay attention to me juice and anticoagulants because they
Oh,
want
so that
your
I'll
blood
bleed
to,
more.
yeah, yeah. So
Mm.
it's easy for them to get it if it doesn't clot. And then that causes the itch. So those enzymes they're putting into your body creates the itchiness, which for me, I'm now, because I've been working with Aedes albopictus for so many years, I'm allergic to them.
Oh,
So when they bite me, I get like really big quarter-sized welts
oh,
on my body.
career. Oh, that's a problem for you.
Yeah,
Detriment.
it's not
Work
very
at your own risk. You might become allergic to mosquitoes.
It's like that with a lot of insects. You can become allergic to moths or butterflies because the scales on their wings will eventually
Oh, will
cause an
slough off
allergy.
on you.
Yeah.
How horrible.
Yeah. It's
So,
not
is
great.
there any? They don't care that I get itchy afterwards. It doesn't serve them in any way that I get itchy afterwards. It's just one of
No,
those things.
it's just a side effect. It doesn't help them for you to be itchy.
Right. They're not like leaving anything behind they want me to spread all over my own
No,
skin
no,
or anything. Okay. Okay.
no.
Okay. Because I know there's some things that do want me to spread around my own skin.
Yeah,
Ugh.
there are certain insects that will want you to scratch
Mm-hmm.
and
A
move things
mosquito's not one of
around.
them. They don't care.
No,
After they've sucked your blood, they're out of there.
they're done. Yeah, and they want to do
One
it
and done.
quickly because it's dangerous for them.
Right. Because I'm going to slap them off.
Oh yeah. Oh
And
yeah.
they're just so fragile with their little spindly legs. Very crushable. My dad
Very
claims that if you hold if you okay, my dad claims that you see a mosquito land on you, you press your arm above where the mosquito is so that it cuts off the blood supply, much like a kink in a hose, and then you let it go after a couple seconds, it will explode the mosquito.
I I don't think
This
so.
is I don't think so either,
I don't
but
think
this is
so.
what my Montana boy dad is telling me.
Mosquitoes have they have a mechanism in their body that says this is enough blood. We're gonna stop,
And how much is
so that
enough
they
blood for a
don't
mosquito?
explode. It's just a couple microliters. It's very little. It's a super tiny amount.
Just like a drop and they're out of there.
They're good, yeah. And then they get pretty. Their abdomens get pretty swollen.
So they get all puffy, and sometimes when you slap one after it's eaten you,
You
it leaves
get a blood
behind a
splat.
little yeah,
Yeah.
leaves
Oh yeah.
leaves behind a splatter effect. Yum. And how often do they need to feed if they're not very big? I feel like a drop of blood would go a long way. How often do they need to
They
munch
just
on
need
someone?
one good munch in order to lay eggs.
And do
So
they only lay eggs once, or are they
no, they can
drinking
lay,
blood laying eggs? Drinking
yeah, they
blood
can
laying eggs.
multiple egg laying events.
Oh.
They mate. So mosquitoes come together in a big swarm,
Hmm.
and they do the little courting dance.
I've definitely walked through
Um,
those.
oh yeah, and what's cool is each species of mosquito has a different wing frequency. and it's how the males find the right females of their species is by wing beat frequency. So that's kind of cool.
So everybody's got their own special buzz noise that we're used to hearing, that little zzz, but the mosquitoes can tell apart. Oh, that's
That's
so and
Aedes
so. That's
aegypti. That's Aedes
yeah.
albopictus. That's Anopheles gambiae. Yeah, they can tell the difference, and they don't have ears, so they're not like they're not hearing. I wouldn't say
Oh,
they have
sensing.
they've yeah they have like tympanal membranes, which are like like an
They got little
eardrum
drums
kind
all
of.
over them.
Yeah, you can think about it as multiple eardrums that helps them pick up frequencies, and they pick up chemical cues too. Their male antennae are very, very fuzzy, and it's to pick up pheromones from the females to find each other. It's neat. They've got their own thing going on, aside from just biting us and getting smashed.
And how long, if a mosquito is successful at
Hmm.
doing their bite lay, how long will they live in
Um,
their adult form? I should say.
yeah. The species I work with can live about 90 days.
Oh
So,
wow,
yeah,
three
kind
whole
of,
months.
yeah, it's a
I,
long
I guess I'm
time.
used to that butterfly timeline where they're like, "Oops, starved to
Like,
death in 5 days."
yeah, once they reach this adult stage, they can live for about 90 days.
And how long, as we've discovered over this podcast, I have discovered over this podcast, that they spend a lot of time as larvae. Is a mosquito
Hmm.
another one of those ones that spends most of its life being a little wiggle guy
Um,
and then becomes a quote unquote adult?
so mosquito metamorphosis is actually pretty fast. It
Okay.
depends on the species, it depends on the temperature, food availability, interspecific competition. There's a lot of factors that go into how fast. Let's talk about Aedes tricereatus because those are my lab mosquitoes that I see them every day. I say hello.
And they buzz back, "Hello,
Hello, and then they
Kelly."
and then they try to bite me if I
And then
put
they,
my
they
M
form
my
the
arm in
shape
their
of a
cage.
human out of all of the swarm, and they're like, "Please love us, Kelly."
I made a comment once on Reddit, and I call it my love letter to mosquitoes. And someone asked me if I was 10,000 mosquitoes in a trench coat, and I said yes.
Yeah,
Yes, I
correct.
am.
Giving out, what is it, 10,000 hugs.
Mhm.
That's a different bug, but that's fine.
But still, um, so I really respect mosquitoes after working with them for so long. But anyway, so they start as eggs. Now, mosquitoes will either lay their eggs directly in the water on a little raft. Culex, I think, does that. Mosquitoes from the genus Culex.
So they're not in the
Um,
water, they're in a little,
they're in a
they're
little
on a
boat.
little boat.
They make a little boat, and they,
Oh,
and they float around.
for some reason
They're-
I thought it would be underwater.
and then other species, Aedes, the genus Aedes, will lay them along the edge of a pond, or I work with tree hole mosquitoes, so they lay their eggs in tree holes, or sometimes rock pools. They lay it around along the edge, and that's because they want their eggs to dry out for maybe like a couple weeks, because that water level is going to change, right, due to evaporation. So the water level drops, and they remain dry for a certain amount of time. And then once they're re re-wetted, I guess is the way to put it,
Remoisturized.
re-moisturized, moistened once more. That plus bacteria will trigger a hatch. And then once they hatch, you've got these little squirmy babies in the water. We call those wrigglers, wrigglers or larvae, and they're people get real grossed out about mosquito larvae. Have you seen them in puddles before?
Oh yeah, absolutely. All you need is one bucket that stayed in your backyard too long,
Yes.
and you come over to empty it out, and it's just full of little wrigglers going to town in there, and you're like, "Oh, that's gross."
And they have not just buckets. I've seen them in bird baths. I've found them in soda caps, small soda caps,
Oh,
uh,
you wouldn't think that would be enough room
chip bags with water,
anywhere,
anywhere,
anything
Any-
that it has.
especially 80s. Yeah, they are
Yeah,
just all over the place. Yeah, so if you have standing water in your yard, just especially in the summertime, please dump it. Just dump it once a week, or you're gonna get clouds of mosquitoes happening on your property. But yeah, they come out as little wrigglers. and they go through several instar stages. First instar is maybe a millimeter. They're really, really tiny, little teeny
Mm-hmm.
teenies. And they feed on detritus.
Bug.
Oh, so larvae, right? We were talking about larvae. And these are, I think, I know for the dragonfly damselfly episode, I interchangeably used nymph and larvae because
Mm-hmm.
we often do that with dragonflies. But mosquitoes, they're larvae. They're 100% larvae. They are not nymphs. And that's because mosquitoes go through a complete metamorphosis. So they are egg, larvae, pupa, adult, or egg, larva, pupa, adult. Much like our ladybugs, right? We talked about ladybugs. So they come out, they wriggle around, and now depending on the species, some of them like to hang out near the top of the water, and they have little siphons that come out of their ends, and they stick those siphons up into the top of the water column to breathe air. That's how they get their air.
So they're little mosquitoes with snorkels.
Yeah, they have little snorkels.
Oh my gosh.
And I
I think I accused the nymphs last week of having snorkels, but this week they
They
do have
actually
snorkels.
do have snorkels. Let me show you a larva image. You can see there. You can see the little snorkely butts. Oh, here we go.
Oh yeah, let me click on over here.
There we go. So you can see how they hang from the water column, and I put it in the Discord.
Click. Oh yeah, so they just kind of hang out. They remind me almost of bats on a branch, that they're all just kind of hanging underneath that. And is it the water tension that helps keep them there?
Yeah, yeah. Water tension helps keep them there.
Mm. They're not like constantly having to swim their little legs.
No, they can. They just dangle. They are very sensitive to light and shadow, though. So if this were the container I was keeping them in, the minute I come over, they dive. They dive right
Mm.
down to the bottom of the cup to avoid predation. And some of them kind of prefer to hang out in the water column instead of at the surface, but they still go up for air. And they eat detritus. They eat each other if they die. They'll eat anything.
No love lost between mosquito
No,
siblings.
no. Well, they're excellent little cleaners. Little, yeah, they're filter feeders, so they'll clean.
Would you say that that's their purpose within the ecosystem, is to clean up nasty ponds?
Um, I don't like to say purpose.
Oh, fair enough.
Nothing has a purpose.
That's the
That is
role
an
they play.
anthropocentric yeah view of things. Yeah, what their niche is,
Yeah.
I guess, is a better way to put that. And they have lots. They do lots. So larvae, the larvae are like I said, filter feeders, and you're right in that context. One of their, we can call them jobs. One of their jobs is to clean and help clean out the water column. Another is food. They're an excellent food source. Everything eats mosquito larvae. Everything. Each other. Frogs, little fish, beetle larvae, our friends the dragonfly and damselfly larvae from last episode. They
Oh,
like to munch on mosquito larvae. And there's a group, a genus of mosquitoes called Toxorhynchides, and they only feed on other mosquitoes. That is their job, which is very cool. So not all mosquitoes are looking to bite us. Sometimes they're chomping their neighbors.
that's interesting to think that they're just in there. I don't know. I guess I never really thought about what a larva of a mosquito eats. Well, always, again, we're biased towards the final stage where they drink our blood. So last week we talked about the nymph and how it kind of gradually changes rather than
Mm-hmm.
pupates into a single cocoon and pops out a fully formed butterfly.
Adults, yeah.
So is the larva gradually changing that way? It's just getting bigger and bigger
Yep,
until
yeah,
it finally changes?
they just get big. They get a little bit larger with every, we call them instar, it just means stage, until they become pupa. The pupa, they move. These pupa are actually completely capable of swimming. We call them tumblers frequently because they look like they're tumbling through the water. But once they reach the pupal stage, they can't eat. So they're no longer eating. They've got all the food they're going to get, and they spend all that time hanging out near the water surface to breathe, and then slowly becoming an adult mosquito. Let's see if I can show you a tumbler. While I pull up an image, Amanda, I'm going to ask you how's your drawing going.
So I've gone a little bit. I'm not sure what to call this character's source. So I stuck with the vampire origin. So I'm trying to sneak some vampire stuff in there. But you said that thing about the little kicky feet, and it made me really think a ballet dancer would be a really cute way to go with this. So I've put a basic ballet pose. Apologies to the ballet people in the audience who may look at this and go like, "That's a terribly drawn pose. How dare you?" Including, but not limited to, my own sister, who was a ballerina for most of her adolescence. The hand has gotten a little flamenco, but that's fine with me. That's fine with me. I've given her a ballet pose with a masquerade mask that has that long nose. That's more of an art history reference for me, because the Native American masks with the long nose are referred to as mosquito masks.
Oh, cool.
But
I don't think I've
I
ever
am
seen
not a
this
Native
before.
American art specialist by any means. I can't speak to more than that, just that they are called mosquito masks sometimes. So I've given her that masquerade mask, and she's in this ballet pose, and her tutu, rather than being a typical tutu, is mosquito netting.
Oh, I love that. That's
Because
very cute.
I want it off of me. And then, of course, in the corner, I will show you momentarily, is her husband, who simps only for her. And he loves her very much. This little mosquito boy.
He should be smaller than her.
Oh,
Like
he's much smaller. Don't worry about
significantly
that.
smaller. Yeah.
He's probably, I mean, he's even smaller than Woolly Bear, so he's quite small.
Oh wow. He's teeny.
He's eensy weensy. Well, his love, knows no bounds, but his body does, unfortunately.
He should present her with flowers.
Oh, okay, interesting. Okay,
Because
I'm gonna get some.
we haven't quite gotten to adults yet, but adult mosquitoes generally feed on nectar from flowers, males and females.
What? You are blowing my mind right now. What are you talking about, Kelly? That they drink from flowers. That is what
Yeah.
bees do. I won't hear of this. I won't hear of mosquitoes drinking
Mosquitoes
from
are
flowers.
important pollinators, Amanda.
What? What are you telling me right now? What? Mosquitoes are pollinators?
Mm-hmm.
They're not just these little parasite dudes who...
No, they're not parasites.
Well, I guess they don't burrow in you.
But so males only drink nectar. They are that is their.
It seems like an obvious question. What do the males drink if they don't
Yeah.
drink blood? And it's flowers. Oh
Yeah.
They're more gentle at heart than I was willing to give them credit for.
The males are so gentle and so cute. Oh my god, Derek, can you find a image of a male mosquito to show Amanda? Because I'm very slow at getting images into Discord. Amanda's a lot faster.
Wow.
So you said parasite before. Parasite is something that its entire life cycle takes place within a host. It needs a host for that.
Okay. So there's like as very specific boundaries for what counts as a parasite. Makes sense.
So mosquitoes are not not in that category. Although I do want to do an episode on parasitoid wasps at some point, because they're very cool.
Those wasps keep coming back. Yeah. People are going to end the podcast when the wasps go. They're like, I finally got my payout.
So many wasps. That's dark on my screen, but if you can see, look at that little cutie, Amanda. Check out his antennae.
Click on over. Oh, that is horrifying. They do have bushy long antenna, very moth-like. These antennae.
It's for pheromone capture.
I was gonna say, because the moths are after the ladies the same way this guy's probably after the ladies, and she doesn't care. She says, when they find me, they find me.
I think these really close-up images make them less cute, but if you see a little male around and he's teeny tiny, you just see his fluffy.
I would say that's true of. Oh my gosh! Look at his fancy hat. Okay, I will give you that this one's actually pretty cute. He's got what I could only describe as in shape the British soldier when he has that big bear hat on. It's like he's got two of those. He's wearing
two. They're so cute.
He's like, "Don't touch me. I'm busy. I will not be strayed from my duty for any reason." Okay. Now I put a little fuzzy hat on my little guy.
He does need a little fuzzy hat. That or really bushy eyebrows. Whichever.
Let's go bushy eyebrow for sure.
Whichever lends itself to a better image. Oh, and speaking of what they eat, so when we think of mosquitoes, we think of their females, at least, with their pointy proboscis, right? The six thin stylets all pushed together to make a needle. Males have more like more like butterfly style proboscis. They don't curl up, but they're not they can't stab. A male couldn't
Hmm.
bite you if it wanted to. Its mouth is too mushy. It just doesn't do that. But there's a whole genus of mosquito called Malaya, and they the only food they eat is ant vomit, basically. These they have
Yum.
they have thick proboscis with kind of like a club swollen like club end full of
Uh-huh.
setae, and setae are just little hairs. And they will go over and harass an ant. They'll just keep hitting the ant in the face with this proboscis until the ant regurgitates honeydew that it just stole from an aphid. And that's all they eat.
Oh my gosh. So he just gets his boba straw out and he's
Yeah,
weaponized his boba straw and he
he's
comes and smacks you in the face. Throw up that stuff you just. It's like the mugger mugging the mugger
yeah,
here.
it's ridiculous. It's very funny.
That's all they eat.
Yeah, they just
They
harass
only
ants.
eat through thievery.
Yeah, through ant harassment.
Horrible.
Mosquitoes, and they are a lot more complex than most people, I think. I mean, you came into this thinking they just drank blood, right?
I mean, how complicated could a mosquito life be? I'd say to
Very
me 20 minutes
complicated.
ago. I would say, oh, so complicated to me from 20 minutes ago.
It's pretty neat. And there are here so here in New Jersey we have a species of violet. I think it's a violet. One of its primary pollinators are mosquitoes. So some plants are really reliant on the mosquito to be the pollinator, not just bees or hoverflies are also pollinators. We've got beetles are pollinators, ants are pollinators. We got lots of pollinators.
Is it chocolate that relies on like that one eensy weensy? It's like it's not a tsetse fly because I think that's
No,
the,
it's a oh yeah, I know what you mean. Is it a gnat?
it's a for, I think it's a type of gnat and it's
I
the
think it's a
only one
type
that
of gnat.
fits down the little flower to pollinate the chocolate. So if you care about chocolate, you better start caring about bugs.
Care about those little bugs. South Africa. Oh, it just says little fly, but I think it's a gnat.
Okay.
Technically, anything in Diptera, it means two wings, is a fly. So a mosquito is technically a fly. If we're gonna get real pedantic about taxonomy.
Well, you know me. Pedantic is my middle name.
If you're concerned about the taxonomy, Amanda, they're
I
flies.
always am. I
They're all
always am.
flies.
Well, insects are one of those ones I think, and we mentioned this I think early on in episode 1 that we were using the word bug pretty freely.
Yes.
Anything that is a creepy like even all the way down to slugs, I'd say that we could
Yep.
cover slugs
Yep.
because we're
Because I
just
want to
talking about
cover.
bugs.
I want to cover as many organisms as possible, and organisms need heroes is not a good title. So
We're rebranded and we're organisms now. Organisms need heroes.
or
Wow, what
arthropods
a
need
name.
heroes doesn't
Or
work either.
well, I was just gonna say that like insects are and bugs in general are one of those things that we all encounter all the time, but we don't spend much time thinking about.
Mhm. Oh
I
yeah.
I don't spend a lot of
Unless you're
time thinking about
me,
what a
then
mosquito. Oh well,
I'm
I guess
spending
unless
so
you're
much time.
employed to do so. But like I don't know much about what a slug gets up to. I don't know much. Obviously, I don't know much about what a dragonfly or damselfly gets up to.
I
I
don't know
don't
the
know much
sex
about
of
what a
these
I don't
dragonflies.
straight up didn't know that they were different things. So like as a pleb walking around my life, I just know so little about these bugs. Just
Oh,
what the my
you know
good
what?
friend Kelly will tell me.
Even though I've spent several years learning about bugs, so I've done research on mosquitoes, I've done research on cockroaches, roly polies, crickets, wolf spiders, fishing spiders. I've worked with a lot of things. There's still, Amanda, there's so much that I don't know. So much. Even mosquitoes, which I'm supposed to be an expert about, I just have such a gap of knowledge. And it's
Well, there's
because
like
there's
that
just a
scale,
never
right?
ending thing. Yeah.
There's like that scale that's like how much you know nothing about something, you know a little bit about something, so you think you know everything about it. And
Mm,
then the more you get to know, the more you realize you don't know.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And there's just so many species. So many
Yeah,
species.
they're what is it? They're trying to discover. They're discovering like 10,000 bugs every minute, whatever. I know it's not that much, but that's what
And
they
so
say is like there's
so many
more
go
undiscovered bugs than there are other animals entirely.
probably, yeah, I would say it's very likely there are more undiscovered arthropods than there are certainly mammals. We do still occasionally discover new mammals, which is always
Every now and
exciting.
then, some little guy has gotten away from us all this time.
And if you think about it, so many bugs, well, quotes, air quotes, bugs have gone extinct that we never saw. Like we've never seen them, we will never know them.
Yeah,
And that's
hard to get
just
a
how it
fossil
goes.
record of bugs.
Yeah, yeah, because you're looking for imprints. They don't really stay.
Yeah, they don't really stick around.
Or I mean, when we do things like damage the rainforest, how many do we kill that were alive with us and we just never saw them because they're gone
Right.
now.
Well, there's like
So
that fish that only lives in that one cave. So maybe we
yeah, that
accidentally
blind
killed the
fish.
entire bugs that only lived in this one cave because we messed with it.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's part of it. I know we talk about imposter syndrome a lot, but really some of it is just understanding that I can't know everything. It's impossible. Like I said,
Who
even
could?
mosquitoes. Don't at me, listeners, about things about mosquitoes that maybe I forgot to mention. Uh,
Feel free to send in questions, just don't add us.
yeah, questions are great. Actually, what I would love to do is if listeners have really specific questions we can make little mini episodes out of. I'm super happy to answer, answer anything like that, especially about mosquitoes.
If I may ask a question that may stump you,
Yeah,
and
go ahead.
it has nothing to do with actual mosquitoes.
Let the stumping begin.
The stumping again. Let me get out my chainsaw so that I may stump you.
Hail to the king.
Where does the word mosquito come from? Do you happen to know?
Oh, the etymology.
Yeah. Why are they called skeeters?
Oh, it's just the mosquito is Spanish and Portuguese for little fly.
Oh, there
That's
you
all.
go.
Yeah, nothing.
We've just once
It's
again taken the word and said, sure, that'll work. That's the word for it.
yeah, yeah. It's just the word for little fly. It's interesting that we use the Spanish or Portuguese word because generally, um, I think we don't. I don't think that's. I don't
No.
know if that's a common. Those are common languages that we use for any kind of animal identification. But
Yes, all about that Latin,
mhm.
baby.
Yeah, and then when we get to families and genus and species, that's all not Latin. Producer Derek has posed the question, and I would say this question is my nemesis, not the mosquito. Is can we get rid of them forever?
I did in fact ask my husband, "Do you have any questions about mosquitoes?" And he said, "How do we get rid of them forever?"
Uh,
So clearly, it's a lot of people. What do they want to know about the mosquito? How to remove them from their lives?
yes. So, and this is where I will get at. This is where listeners will be mad at me. I would say personally, no. Do not
Don't
get rid
do
of
it.
mosquitoes. Yeah. For multiple reasons. One, ethically, who are we to completely wipe an entire species or group at this point off the face of the planet? I think ethically it's wrong. It's not okay. And two, like we were talking about before, mosquitoes serve a purpose in the ecosystem, right? They feed other things, they're pollinators. And three, most of them don't bother us. Most mosquitoes are not interested in humans. Some mosquitoes can be very species or taxon specific. Some only bite mammals, some only bite birds. There are some bird eating mosquitoes that will not come near you. Some like reptiles and amphibians. So that we don't want to get rid of everything. There are three genera, three groups of mosquitoes that are problems for humans, and that's Culex, Aedes, and Anopheles. These are where the diseases come from. And I suppose you could say, can we get rid of every Aedes, Anopheles, and Culex species and not wreck the environment or not cause a big problem? And the answer is probably. There was a paper in Nature a few years ago, and people on the internet love to pull this paper out in my face when I mention that I think it's not a good idea to get rid of all mosquitoes. And that paper says that it will not hurt the ecosystem to kill all mosquitoes. I disagree with this paper, but what the hell do I know? I'm just some jerk also on the internet. uh,
Why should my opinion be
yeah.
any
Uh,
more heavily weighted?
and maybe you could get rid of, let's say, and this is a debate within the mosquito community. Not all scientists agree with this person, and I forgot who the author was. There are people on both sides of the fence. I don't remember if there are responses to that paper, like specific responses or not. It's an old paper at this point. I'd have to look. Anyway, so let's say we remove all the mosquitoes. Every last one of them, we go, I don't care if they bite frogs. I don't care if they bite blue jays. I want them out. We pull them all out of the ecosystem. And there are other things for birds to eat, for frogs to eat, for fish to eat, right? Nature has a bunch of redundancy. The food system, the food chain is redundant. Well, what happens if another species that also fills that niche for food for others also dies out because of us? Maybe we did something, or maybe it's a natural extinction event. Now we don't have a failsafe anymore, right? We don't have a backup. And that's where the danger, I think, lies in pulling out entire groups of animals that way, is you remove the failsafe, the redundancy.
I think we talked about that a little bit with we mentioned the idea of like let's introduce in our Emerald Ash Borer episode, we mentioned briefly the idea of introducing a different animal to consume this animal so it's no longer an issue. I just think that when we mess with stuff like that, we're likely to get it wrong because
Yeah.
there's just so many factors that maybe I didn't consider. I just in my regular life, I get factors wrong. I'm like, oh, I didn't think about that sort of situation happening as a result of my actions.
Hmm.
When it comes to something as important as ecosystems, I think we really ought to just do what we can to support what's already there.
I think it's hubris. It's hubris to assume we can eradicate entire species and that it won't have a negative effect. I think the nature paper they were looking at a model, and models are great, but as we see, at least with climate change, models can not be 100% accurate to what's going on. Like our climate change, the models are conservative, and we're seeing, I believe, things are a little bit worse than the models predicted.
Oh,
Um,
don't tell me that as I'm sitting here in my hot, hot house.
uh, but yeah, and I'm like I said, people who really hate mosquitoes get very angry at me when I say it's not okay to just eradicate entire species. So we're constantly working on genetic engineering and CRISPR,
Mhm.
and it could be possible to make the mosquito's gut biome and blood, hemolymph, inhospitable to these diseases. So you could stop the disease transmission if you can stop the mosquito from being a good host for the disease. That's how you fix this problem, not killing off an entire species. You know
Well,
what I mean?
I think I heard something about how they were making, was it the males infertile or something
Oh
to
yeah,
try
yeah.
and keep their population down?
So
How you feel about that?
there have that's fine. So there have been several releases of genetically modified males. Last time I was at a conference, they were specifically discussing it in the Florida Keys. And what they do is they take invasive species like Aedes albopictus and or Aedes aegypti. I don't remember exactly what species they were using, and they make the males infertile. And now all that does is a very species specific, and again, these are invasive species, way to get rid of a species here. That makes total sense.
Mhm.
I think it's 100% okay to eradicate an invasive species
Right.
in
There's a
their
big difference.
non native land. Yes, get rid of all of them. That's fine. I don't think
Just
we should
because I don't want
eradicate
you to
that
come into
species
my
in
house
its native
doesn't mean
land. Yeah, I don't think we should go to Japan, where Aedes albopictus is from, and kill all
Mhm.
of them because
Right.
they are part of that ecosystem. Kill all the invaders in their invasive range. Yes, totally fine. I'm all right with that because they end up covering ecological niches of native species. They can
Mhm.
outcompete them. That's not good. I always say yes to getting rid of invaders. But yeah, so if we can do something specific for invasive species that carry disease, yes, get rid of them. If we can genetically modify them so they're no longer good hosts to disease, great, let's do that. We do have control measures. Put up a bat house, man. Bats eat so many mosquitoes every night. Derek, you'll probably know the exact number. How many mosquitoes in one evening do bats eat? 1,000 per hour. So one bat is eating 1,000 mosquitoes per hour.
Oh, so they
Invest in
could
your
eat
local bats.
10,000 mosquitoes by the end of the night.
And that's
That's
just
just one bat.
one bat.
Bats, man.
Bats are very cool.
So really, we should create
a
oh,
mosquito-sized insect, so may not be eating exactly 1,000 mosquitoes.
right.
But, right.
So really, the Batman characters are the ones. They've not jumped on the opportunity to have a mosquito-shaped villain.
Yeah.
Is there a time of day I should avoid? You were saying that they're out when they're
Oh.
out, and there's nothing I can really do.
Generally, dawn and dusk is good mosquito time, early in the morning. But there are some species that are out all day long. It's a lot of overlap with niches, so they're a little hard to avoid. During the day, they're like to rest under plants. So if you have bushes, they're probably the adults are hanging out in those bushes when it's super super hot, and then they'll come out. My poor dad has always complained about mosquitoes in our yard since I was a kid. He loves gardening, and he just freaks out.
And he's gardening out there, and he disturbs them all.
Yeah, and then he gets swarmed by mosquitoes. Hi, Dad, if you're listening, love you.
My dad, if you're listening, stop exploding mosquitoes with your powerful arms. So I hate mosquitoes. I want them away from me. I need to dump out my buckets of water. I need to avoid going outside at dawn or dusk. I need to not ruffle up a bunch of bushes. What else can I do? I've seen bug zappers. Are they effective?
Bug zappers are less effective against mosquitoes. You're more likely to get moths. Chunky flies.
Oh,
chunky flies like a bug zapper.
Isabella, no! Don't go into the light, Isabella!
Yeah, poor Isabella tiger moth. We don't want her to get zapped. You can also use. There's plenty of insect sprays.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you want to use DEET or there's natural ones, like lemongrass. So you've got options. I don't know how effective the sprays are, or if you want to get real fancy, you can get a whole head net.
Cover myself in head to toe. Just one big hat, an umbrella-sized hat that just nets down from there, and then I wander the forest like a begrudging spirit.
You really went the extra mile with that. I just meant a net for your head, not your whole body.
Girl, you know I love to haunt the restless souls of people who have done bug crimes, and that is what I will do with my big umbrella hat. I will speak to them in a spooky voice.
Bug Crimes is the name of my band, I think.
Bug Crimes. Yeah, that's always my goal, is to haunt men who've done bad things.
Oh,
it's $30 to buy a full suit.
Oh, it just looks
reasonable. I say, Kelly, you need this. You need a $30 suit, head to toe.
When I go into the lab, then my advisor will show up and he's like, "What are you doing?"
You said it was Casual Friday, so here I am.
I got tired of getting bit, and now I'm wearing this whole suit in the lab, so they don't bite me. They get loose. We keep them in the lab. We keep them in tents. So our mosquitoes live in large tents. They're all white. It's white mesh. You can find them for purchase online. Occasionally, they get loose when you're trying to transfer adults from they're
so small. How do you keep every hole covered? They're so teeny.
Well, we hatch them out in big yogurt containers. Like a big Chobani container. Put water in it. The larvae.
Meet me at the Chobani container. I have some larvae to give you.
Some larvae for you, and we let them. It's called the close when they come out. But then they're all flying around at the top of the yogurt container, and I have to get them from the yogurt container into the tent. And it involves pulling out like a sleeve. The opening to the tent is a mesh sleeve, and I'll pull it down over the yogurt container and then open the lid. And they're supposed to go all into the tent, but occasionally one will get stuck on the sleeve part, and I'll pull the yogurt container out, and then she'll zip out the back. Normally, I've gotten really good at catching them with my hands and then putting them in the tent and releasing.
This has always been the fall down for butterfly catching for me. Is like you catch them in the net and you're like, okay,
Now what?
now what? How do I get this teeny tiny delicate creature out of this net without crunching it?
Oh, it's very hard with butterflies. Very
Yeah.
hard. With the mosquitoes, I can usually cup my hand and I haven't crushed them. They're just in there, and then I can put my hand in the tent and release. I'm doing this, showing Amanda. Listeners
There
can't
you
see
go.
me on
There you go.
camera. Yeah.
It's a very Bollywood-esque dance move.
Yes, it is.
Catch the mosquito, release the mosquito.
Mosquito.
Catch the mosquito, release the mosquito.
I just need some music in the background while I'm doing it. I like to listen to
Uh,
podcasts while I'm in the lab, actually, not music.
the Again, we're gonna get into personal stuff here, but Bollywood very big at our mother's house. She loves a Bollywood film.
Oh, Derek's asking about if I'm dipping for them. So how do I catch mosquitoes in the wild? I guess is the question.
Yeah.
Well, when I go out, because I'm looking for tree hole specific mosquitoes, I really just bring a little glass container and dip it into the tree hole or into the puddle. There's lots of mosquitoes in puddles, and I just pull the larvae in, cap it, and then bring them back to the lab and let them hatch out, become adults rather in the the yogurt container. You can catch them in traps. You can catch adults in CO2 traps. They'll come. This I'm not an exterminator. We don't like trap mosquito. We don't really do adult traps for me, so I'm not as used to this. I've used fan traps before. Derek, have you used fan traps?
Yeah, the ones I've used had a CO2 block of dry ice and then a little fan to direct them into a little net underneath. So it would
Hmm.
kind of pull them in once they got kind of close.
And then they can't get back out again.
Yes.
Yeah, we don't. I only collect larvae. I do not collect. Collecting adult mosquitoes is not useful for me, unless I want to do. If I'm looking to catch a bunch of adults to do genetic study, if I want to do that, then that's you know. But no, yeah, I don't catch adults. Catching adults is not important for my work.
So what is it exactly that you're trying to find out from these mosquitoes? As long as we're talking about your work.
Oh, must we talk about my work?
We don't have to if you don't want to, but gee.
Oh, I'm currently. I don't know how much I'm allowed to talk about my work because it's not finished and it's not published. So I don't think I'm really supposed to get into that.
Oh, you can't even tell me what the goal of your work is?
I can say yeah, I can say that I'm working on how climate change and different temperatures affect mosquito population growth.
Ah, okay, I see.
Yeah.
Because I know Derek wasn't allowed to talk much about when he did mosquito work about testing for West Nile virus,
Hmm.
which is why I have
Yeah.
not brought it up.
Yeah, I'm not really, because my work also isn't. My advisor keeps saying this is yours, this is yours, this is yours, but really I'm in his lab. So
Right.
everything is kind of his. And I don't want to assume it's okay for me to talk about specific projects. So yeah. Otherwise I would. Online I'm very vague about it. I'm like, I just work with mosquitoes. I work with their biology or whatever. I read I think it was a few years ago now that people thought if you drank a gin and tonic it would repel mosquitoes, but that doesn't work.
Doesn't do anything for you.
It doesn't repel mosquitoes.
No, it's because the quinine in tonic water.
Oh, is that why?
I think it's just that you care less about getting bit by mosquitoes after you've had
If you've had a couple gin and tonics, yeah. But that's an old wives' tale. That doesn't work. Or you can pretend it works and just enjoy your gin. I love old wives' tales like that, though. If you look at old folklore and they're like, if you walk in a circle under a full moon, you'll never get bitten by a mosquito again. And you're like, where did this come from? Why is this a thing? Oh, you know what a common thing is? When you get bit by a mosquito, and I have friends always tell me this, they will make a little X shape.
Yeah.
And that doesn't do anything. That's nonsense.
They do the nail. They use the nail to,
that does
something
nothing.
about like you can't feel pain and itching at the same time.
That's not true. That is. But it maybe a placebo effect. Maybe a placebo effect
maybe.
really helps. I find if I have a particularly gnarly mosquito bite if I put a cold pack on it or an ice cube, that will stop the itching. Or just use calamine lotion or anti-itch cream. You don't have to do anything super fancy. But ice really really works for me. So if anyone needs to get rid of an itchy bug bite, put some ice on it.
It's not like the jellyfish sting where we've
Don't
been
pee on it.
peeing on each other for no reason.
That just seems like a joke by a frat boy, doesn't it? Let me pee on it.
Yeah, I'll pee on you, bro. That'll get rid of it, bro. It's the acid, bro. It's what gets rid of it. I definitely am not just really into peeing on my friends.
Yeah.
Let me give you guys this version of her, and we'll go over some of the features, and we'll decide if we need to add anything. Okay, let me toss our drawing into the art one. So, like I said, I kind of went with some vampiric elements. I didn't quite vampire her out as much as I think we could have, but tried to keep the homage there. So I gave her like the vampire collar on her very vampiric ballet dress here, the mosquito net coming from her dress, gave her some stripes on her arms and legs. I know that the male is the one who's meant to have the feathery antenna, but I gave her 2 feathers in her bun here. Like I said, I got a little flamenco between the
It is a
hand.
little flamenco. I like it though. It's very, very cute.
On point, because every proper ballerina eventually gets on point, right? No boobs, as discussed.
Thank goodness.
Between the ballet and the mesquite.
Oh, she looks great. I love the colors in this. Really pretty. And look at that little tiny male. Look at him.
He loves her. He loves her.
Please.
Pick
Senpai, notice.
me, mommy. Sorry, mommy. Mommy.
This is a good one, Amanda. I mean, they're all good, but I think
Thanks.
your creativity is awesome. And I love the mosquito net dress.
I'm not sure where she fits in any sort of hero verse. Maybe this is like her day job, and then she goes and does something else during the.
She's a secret vampire.
Nighttime.
Secret vampire.
Yeah, secret vampire. That Morbius movie, right? Am I right?
I haven't watched Morbius.
No one has, Kelly.
Oh.
That's the trouble.
That's the joke.
So out of a number of legs, Kelly, knowing that you like these guys, what is your leg count for the mosquito?
My very biased leg count is 6.
Oh, of course.
But if
6 out of
if I was coming at this as a not a mosquito biologist, I would say maybe a 3. A fair 3, because they're important. They're I think they're still pretty neat, even if I wasn't studying them. And of course the ant vomiter really like ups it.
Of course.
Ups it a couple stars. What about you? What do you think?
I would say, I feel like I've already given a 2, and we're only a couple episodes in, just because I feel being
you
a
have
character.
high stakes.
I do. I'm
number of legs
I'm
we give.
very discerning my palate for bugs. I'd be willing to concede to your 3, but I would go 2 just because they are this spreader of disease, which I feel like takes them down a fair bit. They have an invasive quality to them, which is not great. They bite me personally, which of course always knocks you down a peg. You're not allowed to bite me without my permission.
No consent. Yeah. Mosquitoes do not get consent.
Yeah. And consent is important, and the mosquitoes do not have it.
Fair.
So I'd go 2. I'd be willing to concede to a 3, given that they pollinate stuff, which I did not know about them. And we have to protect our pollinators whenever we can. So I'll give 2.5. 2.5.
2.5. Oh, a half. This is our first half star. half leg. Yeah.
Got trapped in
just a couple segments. Couple segments on that one leg. It's fine.
Just got popped off by a 12-year-old with a question.
Curse you, little Billy.
They're always Billy, aren't they? Billy. So Kelly, as a lover of mosquitoes, if you had one message to give to our listeners today, what would your final parting message be? R.E. mosquito love.
Give mosquitoes a chance. Give them a chance. They're a lot more complicated than just sucking our blood. I think they're cool.
They might be hitting you with a boba straw.
Yeah.
And stealing your aphid pee right out of your gullet any day now.
I love that's what you took away from this was the
I-
one genus that harasses ants into
that's what
vomiting.
I do.
It's
That's what I
perfect.
do. I take one. I only have room in this brain for one new fact a week.
I think that's the best one. I'll take it. That's the best fact.
I picked the right fact. All right, great, perfect. All right, guys, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. Bugs Need Heroes is created by Derek Conrad and Kelly Zimmerman, hosted by Amanda Allen Niday and Kelly Zimmerman. Bugs Need Heroes is produced and edited by Derek Conrad. Our music is Ladybug Castle by Roll Music. All character art by Amanda Allen Niday. Got a bug question? Email us at bugsneedheroes@gmail.com. Check us out on bugsneedheroes.com for the visual companion to our episodes with the artwork of the bug-related heroes. We also have an Instagram, Twitter, and subreddit under the Bugs Need Heroes name. Thanks for coming by. I filled in this guy's eyebrows and now he looks like Dan Levy.